Don't think I need to say much, do I?
Just stay there, I reckon.
Yeah. Twin Turbo Tuesday episode 6 then, we think.
Say flange.
Sorry?
We get to say flange.
I don't need to say flange this week. So I fitted the intake flanges. No? Okay.
I'm shaking my head behind the camera.
Yeah. Shake the camera, then people will know.
Yeah.
Right, so obviously, blindingly obvious what I've got up to in the last couple of weeks. Intake pipe is complete, almost. I am going to cut this pipe here and put a silicone joiner in there just to allow for any difference in movement on the turbos. This turbo is obviously mounted on a bracket off the engine mount, and this turbo is mounted on the exhaust manifold, so different expansion of metals here. I need to have some sort of flex in this, otherwise something is going to crack eventually. Really pleased with how this pipe has come out. I was actually really dubious as to doing that bit. It's probably the most tricky bit I've done so far, with the exception of manifolds obviously, but I did spend an evening actually looking at orientating the turbos in this plane and clocking them the other way around, so having this one pointing this way and both compressor outlets pointing forwards. However, that then meant there was 3 pipes that had to fit between here, which there isn't space for. So yeah, I've stuck with the original orientation of the turbos, which obviously saved a lot of work, but I had to kind of go there and explore the other option.
This episode was nearly very different.
This episode was nearly Twin Turbo Thursday, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah. Right, so yeah, one question we've had a few comments on is airflow meter position. So I thought I'd discuss that in this episode, tell you how I ended up where we are and where I'm actually going with it. So initially, when I first thought this project up, I was actually thinking of running 2 airflow meters, one on each turbo, airflow meter, air filter, nice easy intake setup. However, there's 2 issues with that. One, the obvious limitation on space. When the turbos actually arrived, I thought, yeah, there's not actually a lot of space for that. And secondly, I was going to have to build a computer system to take the voltages from both airflow meters and then give one output to the Thor ECU. There is a device out on the market that will do that, however there's no redundancy built into it for if one airflow meter goes down, which then means the output from that box of tricks just goes doolally with only one input signal to it. So I was going to build a computer system to do it, which obviously increases my workload on doing this, increases the time scale and increases the complexity. So I employed the method of KISS and decided no, just go with one airflow meter. And the airflow meter here is absolutely fine, however, I'll go on to the however in a second. So it will read the air mass here, no problem at all. Spoken to the ECU tuner, Mark, and yep, we'll get an absolutely perfect air mass reading here. It will measure that, no problem, and also we'll get air temperature that's correct here as well. The one downside is the lifespan of this airflow meter may shorten. So these are pretty much a consumable item between 80 and 100,000 miles, the Bosch airflow meters. But if they get a small film of oil on the sensor, that lifespan reduces drastically. Now, I've been looking at the breather system in the last couple of weeks. Going to run an oil air separator catch can, and I was kind of contemplating the idea of just having that going to atmosphere. However, we've had a few cars with that system on in the workshop in the past, and we've generally always gone back to a scavenging breathing system, because you always end up with smoke coming out from under the bonnet because of that breathe to atmosphere, which is always worrying, and there's sometimes a bit of a funny smell in the air around them as well. So that goes back to scavenging the air, so through a catch can still, and taking vacuum from pre-turbo. Downside to that is if any oil does get through the catch can, it will start to film up on this airflow meter eventually. Could potentially actually reduce the effectiveness of the charge cooler as well, which is something I've only just remembered from my Japanese turbo days. Oil intake, front mount, what those things called, intercoolers. Yeah, it reduces the effectiveness of them. So for that reason, this will be moving. Nothing to do with it not being able to measure air here. It will measure air there absolutely fine. However, for longevity of this, I am going to now look at putting this pre-turbo. It's still here at the moment because if there isn't space for it pre-turbo and everything, then I will look at doing that, and maybe doing something different on the breather system to absolutely try and make sure there's no oil getting through. Whether it's running a couple of catch cans, custom building one, just looking at that setup. But my next plan is I've ordered all the alley intake tube for the intake here. These two pipes are going to come down. They're going to join together, and then I want the airflow meter here and an air filter. The cold inlet that was originally piped to the box is actually in the wing there, just there. So it'd be lovely to get it that way. Obviously this is going on my car that I green lane occasionally off-road, so I may still employ a snorkel on here. So I need to be able to get it down to that area for those reasons. May also run a larger airflow meter. I think the BMW X5 one is slightly larger, it's Bosch. We can still map it into the Thor ECU. So I'm going to have a look at that as well, and plumb that there, and then this will obviously be straight alley pipe. But for now I'm just leaving it in there in case for some reason that isn't an option when I get all the pipe work here. But I was very dubious as to fitting all of this pipe work in. You saw in the last episode the pile of pipe that was here. That's gone quite well and smoothly, so fingers crossed over Christmas, the Christmas period, A, that pipe turns up before the Christmas period, and B, I can get enough time to put that in there. So yeah, I'm really pleased with how this is turning out so far. I've ordered some nice tight bends for the downpipes off the back of the turbos as well, and another flexi. So I will be cracking on with that. And I think that pretty much wraps up where I am.
I think so.
The other problem with moving the airflow meter pre-turbo, I did mention earlier, this measures the air temperature. So obviously having it pre-turbo is not going to measure the temperature of the air that's actually going into the engine. So that's no good for us. So I believe there is a air temp sensor that Bosch make that shares the same sensor pattern as the airflow meter, and I'll then be able to pop that up here somewhere. I'm just trying to find that part number out at the moment. So yeah, again, assuming this airflow meter will fit there, it does mean I'll have to move a sensor here and change some wiring on the airflow meter wire. Which again, I was trying to make this a little bit simpler where this would just plug in. I think I'm going to have to extend this and pull the air temp sensor wire out of it. It's not too much of a job really, considering where I am at the moment.
You can't stop now, Ian.
I've had enough. I'm going on.
I won't let you. The internet won't let you. I think you won't let you.
Just sort of something else I've ordered as well. Our eBay account is weird at the moment. There's so much stuff.
It's not. We just book everything to you.
Well, yeah. I've also ordered some stainless steel sheet for making the heat shields out of. So yeah, that's on its way to me. Was looking that up, and the difference between obviously stainless steel is better than mild steel because it's not going to rust. I'll probably still get a bit of surface corrosion on it, but 3 or 4 grade. An aluminium sheet, some of the research I did, obviously would radiate the heat out over a bigger surface area, so it's a way up there as to what materials you go for. Some people on the internet had sort of said, "Oh, use alley sheet and then put cardboard on it and then wrap it in tin foil." I'd kind of like to avoid that. You what? Cooking chicken? Yeah. All the tin foil's reserved for turkey, I'm afraid. So yeah, I'd much rather just have a sheet of metal, or maybe even twin layer sheet with an air gap between if there's space. Because as pointed out on the last video, this turbo is very close to this intake pipe. So there'll definitely be a heat shield there. And we've already discussed underneath on the sump and the starter motor. And we'll put one above this turbo as well. Lots of work still to do, Steve.
Is there?
Yeah.
That's unusual.
Yeah. I think hours-wise so far into this, I'm averaging 10 to 12 hours a week in the evenings and 1 day at the weekend. This is episode 6, which means we're 12 weeks in. I've definitely missed a couple of weekends, so I'm probably around the 100-hour mark, roughly. And that's without the time spent on the computer researching the parts and ordering and, yeah.
You'd get it done faster if you stopped sleeping.
And doing these videos.
And doing these videos.
Yeah. Okay, Merry Christmas everyone, Happy New Year. If that's not your thing, enjoy your break. If you're not getting a break, just be happy.
See you next time.